From South Bend, Indiana, welcome to 3Degrees Discussions. I'm your host, Mike Vasquez. This is a podcast devoted to the stories behind the innovators, entrepreneurs, and leaders in the 3D printing industry.
These machines can make final use parts in a lot of cases, and that's what I try to center my business around. So you're not going to see me posting a lot of things like on LinkedIn or socials or anything about trinkets. Most of it is going to be functional parts that we've been making here for our customers.
Today's guest is David Helmers. David is the owner of Wolfpack Workshop, a startup additive manufacturing and engineering company based in Columbus, Ohio. Trained as a mechanical engineer, David earned his Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering from Cedarville University and has built his experience around design for manufacturing with a focus on CNC machining, 3D printing, sheet metal fabrication, and welding. This conversation will explore David's journey into engineering and entrepreneurship, what he's learning through building a startup in the additive space, and where he sees opportunities for the next generation of manufacturing innovation. We'll also talk about the role of craftsmanship, problem solving, and why practical experience still matters in a rapidly evolving industry. Before we get started, head over to www.3degreescompany.com and subscribe to the podcast. Remember, you can listen to the show anywhere you download your podcast, including Spotify, Apple, Amazon, or Stitcher. Also, if you or your company are looking for materials, qualification, data management, or general additive manufacturing support, reach out to the team or through our website via email at info@3degreescompany.com. All right, David, thanks so much for joining the show today. Excited to hear kind of what you're up to, what you're doing. This will be kind of our first conversation, which is always exciting, other than kind of through email and LinkedIn. But I always like to start with the guests of kind of get some context, get some grounding. So where were you born? Where'd you grow up?
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. It's an honor. So I was born in Columbus, Ohio. I've lived in this area my whole life.
OH guy?
IO, yeah.
Okay, one of these guys. I'm in South Bend, so I've been adopted into the Notre Dame family. So it's a good thing you didn't tell me that before.
I cared a lot about it growing up because my parents really did, but at this point, I really don't care much about sports anymore.
All good.
But yeah, I went to high school in Westerville, and actually I went to two high schools, Westerville and Olentangy. But I went to Cedarville University is where I got my bachelor's science in mechanical engineering. That was in 2021 is when I got that degree. And then ever since then, I have been working as a mechanical design engineer for a CNC shop in Grove City. So still pretty close to Columbus. In the last year or so around January of 2025, I started Wolfpack Workshop. And, I've always been kind of entrepreneurship minded. Even when I was younger, it wasn't even anything to do with 3D printing or engineering in that sense. I wanted to be a gym owner. I was a competitive CrossFitter, and I actually did an internship with a gym owner. But I was too young at the time and thought that owning a gym meant just working out all the time, and it's a little more involved in it than that. And so I decided to go the engineering route. But anyways, with Wolfpack, we focus on reverse engineering and design, mostly mechanical parts and assemblies in SolidWorks. And then we're also building up a 3D print farm, trying to expand to new technologies for reverse engineering, modeling, and creating final use parts for people. I've always been a huge proponent of a lot of people think of 3D printing and they think of something that creates little trinkets, toys, fidget spinners, and cosmetic models. But I've always been a proponent of saying, these machines can make final use parts in a lot of cases, and that's what I try to center my business around. So you're not going to see me posting a lot of things like on LinkedIn or socials or anything about trinkets. Most of it is going to be functional parts that we've been making here for our customers.
Awesome. And so kind of to get into this a little bit, I mean, you kind of spend your day in a CNC shop. Was that your first manufacturing job, or was that kind of where you got your start?
It's still my first job since graduating college. And it has been a fantastic experience.
What's your average day look like?
I was going to say it's not what you would expect for a CNC shop. It's kind of non-traditional as far as the engineering department goes, because our company is called Advanced CNC. It's split into kind of two halves. You've got the OEM side, which does high volume machining with 4 and 5 axis mills. We don't do a whole lot with them. We mostly are involved with production review and inspection planning, looking at the drawings, making sure that nothing was missed, and that we're going to be able to achieve all of the call outs that are on those drawings. But the part that I'm more involved in is going to be the MRO, which is maintenance, reliability, and operations. We have customers all over Ohio and surrounding states, that are basically maintenance departments, and these guys have they have legacy machines that are running old parts or parts that are from really far away. A machine that was designed in Germany, and the tariffs plus just since the OEM has a monopoly on the part, it's so expensive and long lead time, and we specialize in being able to create parts, and send them to the customer faster than the OEM can get them to them, and even improve on the designs. And we'll also just design things from scratch as well. It's a smaller company. We've only got about 50 people. So I get to wear a lot of hats.
When did you, or where, like, how did you find the company, or did they find you? What was that? Can you walk me through kind of what was that process like?
Yeah, when I graduated, I actually had a period of a few months where I was not set up with a job yet. And I was searching on various platforms, Indeed, things like that. And I actually stumbled upon their ad on LinkedIn. And I'm just remembering it might have been through my school's career page. And I remember my school was quite a bit picky about the resumes, and I had a very long time where I just could not get a resume approved because the school wanted it to look a certain way.
Mhm.
And I ended up undercutting the the school system and just going straight to the website and applying there.
Awesome.
But yeah, they ended up bringing me in for an interview. They were actually looking for somebody who had a little bit more experience, but the manager at the time must have seen something and thought that I'd be a good addition to the team, and I was very grateful for it because we've got to see such a variety of things there. A lot of engineers are working on the same thing day in and day out. Like I like to pick on HVAC guys who are designing heating and cooling systems all day long. I had an internship doing that, and after that internship, I decided what kind of engineering that I don't want to do.
Yeah. And what was it through the company that you saw 3D printing? Was it in college, or like when did you kind of first come across the technology?
That's a good question. I don't remember where I first heard of 3D printing, but I do know that at some point when I was in college, I asked for a 3D printer for Christmas. I asked for an Ender 3, which I feel like almost anybody in the business right now, that was like their first machine. Um, so I had that in my dorm room, and I was printing all sorts of stuff, and um, could even see a little bit of my entrepreneurial brain there too. It was right in the middle of COVID, and everybody was wearing the face masks. Um, and I tried to print like this little hook that would go behind your neck, and it would hold the mask, and it so it wouldn't
Dig into
make
your
your
ears
ears
and
raw.
yeah.
I didn't sell one piece of those.
Where were you trying to sell them, or how were you, like, on Etsy or
I was just trying to sell them
Amazon?
on campus,
Okay.
just to students. It wasn't supposed to be any kind of large scale production. Obviously, I'm just running them on an Ender 3, which is
Yeah.
a little turtle machine. So I printed out some posters, and I just posted them around campus on little boards. And I think I got an email either by the end of that day or the next day from campus services that said, "Hey, you're not allowed to do that unless we approve them. You got to take them all down."
At least someone was working during COVID. Okay, so let's walk me through kind of the business you're doing now, and kind of like where the idea got started and kind of what these first kind of initial steps have been with that.
Yeah. Like I said, I've always wanted to own a business of some sort. And I think the reason in the last year or so that it's really been kicked into overdrive is because my wife and I are expecting our first son
Awesome.
here
Congrats.
in May.
So
And
first kid or first?
first kid.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right.
And he's a boy.
Cool.
Um, and we're really wanting to find a way where I can be home and be present in his life more. So looking for something that I can do working from home,
Mhm.
uh, and thought that we would just go all in and try our absolute darndest to make this work. I'm really blessed with, my wife is already does professional marketing and photography and graphic design. So she's designed like my business cards that I have up here, or I have my email signature, all those little details. She's done all that for me. She does most of my cleaning up for my posts on LinkedIn. I would say LinkedIn is uh, our main lead generation tool right now.
Mhm.
But just to give you kind of a timeline of what it's looked like over time, we started with just eventually I upgraded from the Ender 3 and I got one of the Bamboo Lab P1S
Mhm.
with an AMS on it. And that was like the craziest upgrade ever. But I think one of the first prints I did was in ludicrous mode just to see what it was like. And my mind was completely blown. It prints so fast. But I had that machine, didn't even have any kind of CAD license at the time. I think I was borrowing the one from work whenever I needed to use it, and otherwise printing models that already existed for people, always just trying to kind of center around things that are functional. But eventually, then we moved to two P1Ss. My first two P1Ss are just to my left. You can't see them, but they're right there.
I believe you. Usually my other office, I'll see one right behind me.
Yeah.
So we got one too.
But mostly at that time when I had the two P1Ss it was all friends and family and acquaintances, connections through those friends and family. Um, and I would say my biggest customer up to this point has actually been my employer, the CNC shop that I work for, because we do so much designing there. We're a lot of times designing things that we can't make in house. So we have a big network of vendors, and I was able to secure a spot in there as like their go-to 3D printing vendor, at least when it comes to FDM.
For
Uh,
like fixtures or like work holding
well,
tools, what do you like?
it's actually mostly them as a middleman selling parts to their customers.
Well, okay.
So I say they, but it's usually me. I'm doing a lot of designing of parts, and then they'll outsource stuff to me or to other vendors in the area
Hmm.
to actually make the parts, which is really one of the biggest breaks that we had in a while. There was a pharmaceutical company who was the customer of Advance, and they had us design these big pharmaceutical trays that hold 60 syringes on them, and they store them in a refrigerator. They wanted to order, I think it was just like 60 or 70 of them. It wasn't even that crazy of an order, but just because of the design and the complexity of the design and what it was worth to them, I was able to purchase two of the Bamboo Lab H2 series machines. So I got an H2D and an H2S that I was able to run those jobs on, and that job paid for the machines entirely. So those are currently our production machines at
Hmm.
this time. The other exciting thing that we have, at some point in there, we got a SolidWorks license. So I have one of those now,
I
but
was gonna ask what more so like what your choice was like between SolidWorks or
yeah, I've,
other.
I've always used SolidWorks. I started using it when I was in high school. I had like a CAD class.
Is it cost comparative to like Onshape? I mean, I know like SolidWorks and Onshape are fairly close, but I've
Yeah, I
heard
think
more
they were
people kind of,
developed by a lot of the same people,
yeah.
but I got a perpetual license,
Okay.
so I don't have to pay every year or whatever it is.
Got it.
So,
That's
but
different than Onshape. So Onshape makes you,
okay, I'm not
I don't know. I'm just asking.
technical.
I haven't been up on the CAD software in a while, so I'm always curious of like someone that's gone through that process recently is like, oh, why'd you go with that?
I'm not very familiar with what the process is for Onshape. I
Okay.
just SolidWorks because I've been using it for already
Sure.
10 years
Yep.
and got the certified SolidWorks professional license. And it was, as far as certain business expenses go, it's not that bad. I
Yeah.
think I only paid somewhere between 4 and 5 grand, and that's one time payment.
Yep. That's great.
I have 2026 forever.
Yep.
You do have to pay if you want to upgrade to the next year, though. There's like a maintenance fee for that.
Sure.
But and I was going to say earlier, another exciting thing that I've been working on, and I can't say too much about it because it's a patent idea that I have that I'm working on. I can say it has something to do with full color printing. Um, I have a machine over to my left. It's probably just outside of your view, but I purchased a Zone Star machine. I'm sure that most people have never heard of a Zone Star machine, but it it has four spools of material similar to like what you would see with an AMS on one of those Bamboo Lab machines. But instead of each one feeding into a single Bowden tube, they all feed in together into the hot end, and you can change the percentage of extrusion of each one at the same time,
Okay.
trying to mix the colors together.
Sure.
And their execution was not very successful. It's probably the best option that there is on the market for something like that. And I had an idea. I thought it probably wouldn't be too expensive to try and make a prototype. And I made a prototype and printed some of those XYZ calibration cubes and compared side by side my hardware with their default hardware. And it works so well. So I'm working on talking with a patent lawyer right now and going to try and get that special geometry patented at some point in the next couple. I think it takes about a year to get something like that
Yeah.
approved.
And so, as you think about the business, and I mean, having run a small business for 13 years now, um, I hate when people ask me this, but like, what's your kind of ideal customer? Or, but like, where are you? Um, what are the types of people you'd like to work with? But maybe phrase it like that in terms of stuff you've obviously you're doing projects, you've got customers, you're kind of working, you've got hardware and doing design, but like where from a business owner perspective, where do you see kind of where you're adding a lot of value and where that helps to
Yeah.
scale, where things you're good at and you can hash it out pretty quick and kind
Mhm.
of deliver a lot of kind of ROI?
I would say it's my main value add, I think, is that experience in design.
Yeah. That's what
Uh,
I was going to say is like, that's where, like, as a materials engineer, I'm terrible at doing any like mechanical design. And I can talk to you about the materials and the testing and conceptually, like, how I would redesign a part, but I'm not going to be able to go and kind of do the design or kind of execute that part. And I think to find people locally in the US to do that is rare. They're on their own. So that's awesome.
yeah, so that would probably be the main value add. So to answer your question about the ideal customer, I don't know if it's necessarily the customer, but the kind of work that they need done
Hmm.
is probably a job where there's a certain level of complex mechanical design aspect to it. And then once the design is complete and proofed, they want a pretty high quantity of it. I
Sure.
think, onesie twosie orders you can do with 3D printing pretty easily, because you compare it to something like CNC machining or injection molding, which have really high upfront costs. It doesn't make any sense. So you would want to go to something like 3D printing for a single piece two pieces, something like that. But I'm not making too much money off of those kinds of orders.
Yep.
It's usually more worth it to my business for higher quantities.
Do you find that people are asking you to be more like obviously there's the 3D printed part aspect of it, but like, hey, I need this part. I want it in carbon fiber, reinforced ABS, or whatever it may be. But are there also folks that want like more, this will sound weird, but like concierge like design and manufacturing where like, hey, I have this part. I know you can redesign it. And then they're like, okay, like how would you make that? It's like whether you do it in 3D printing or not, you also obviously have the expertise on CNC or other types of manufacturing equipment where it's like, oh yeah, like I can kind of get that produced for you and you're kind of like the wrangler of all the stuff that goes with that.
Yeah, I think that my experience with Advance has really prepared me well to do stuff like that, to, take an idea that someone has and say like, okay, I have an idea for how you could design this and how you could manufacture it
Mhm.
cost effectively. Um, as far as just doing it in the realm of my business, I've, for example, had a guy who was an HOA president, and he's replacing all of these inserts that go on the garage door windows in his entire complex. Um, and he doesn't know anything about the materials that are available
Mhm.
in 3D
For
printing.
sure. Yep.
He actually, this is really cool. He found my business through AI, which I I'm still in like the early stages where I don't expect my business to just show up on a search.
Yeah.
So he was using this AI, and it actually recommended me, reached out to me, and got a bunch of quotes, and ended up going with us just because, and this was in his own words, just because I was willing to take the initiative to come out there and look at it and just talk to him face to face. But
How did he, what was AI picking up that it like Google, like a Google thing or like a website? Like, do you have any sense of like how it
he was
got
using, I
back?
think it's called Perplexity
Oh,
AI. I
yeah.
had never heard of it before, but I was so curious, like what he had asked, just so I can know, like what is my business showing up under. And he sent me the entire prompt that he had sent to the AI, and I could share it with you later if you want. I'd have to go find it, but um, I guess moving forward to kind of finish out the
Yeah.
answer, he was like, I don't know what to make this out of. Uh, I was like, well, it's going outdoor. So the first thing on my mind is ASA. But also, these things were super long and skinny, and they were a big plus sign shape.
Okay.
And if you're thinking about printing that out of ASA, that's going to turn into a big
Mhm.
potato chip real fast.
Yep.
So I was like, well, I know that if you put reinforced fibers in materials, it tends to take away that warping. So I was able to find Tech, I think it was Tech's ASA glass fiber, and we printed all of the pieces out of that, and it worked flawlessly. It was actually interesting because it had a slight warp in the opposite direction than what you would expect.
Hmm.
So you know how like a lot of materials they like to warp up.
Yep.
Took it off the build plate. It had just a slight bow down, which actually helped them to hold
Yeah. With
their
adhesive. Yeah.
positions in the garage door. But yeah, he was very pleased with that.
That's awesome. And how much of you do you think you're going to be doing local? Like, does it matter if it's local versus not local in terms of kind of what you're doing, or do you want to have
I'm
a
not
preference?
being too picky yet,
Yeah.
at least. I think that
If
as
the
the
check
company
clears, it's all good. I know. Yeah.
as the company gets bigger, I think you can be more picky with stuff
Yeah.
like that. I think, early on, like I will take absolutely anything.
Mhm.
And I have started to be able to get a little bit more picky, uh,
Yep.
but still not too much just because, we're eventually trying to make this be our full-time thing.
Sure.
It's not there by any means, but we're looking to actually invest here pretty soon in one of the Form Labs Form 4Ls, the big, large format stereolithography
Why
resin.
that versus like a fuse? I think the price is different, but like I'm just curious of like
Yeah,
what's your thought process on technologies you're picking?
I originally wanted to get a fuse because it just had that, it looked like the parts that come off of it are just more rugged.
Hmm.
And I got several of their material samples, um, and I was very impressed with them, but I was a little sticker shocked,
Sure.
at least for our size. And so I was probably just going to wait and save until we were able to get one of those. But I saw Formlabs did their announcement of their new Tough series of
Hmm.
resin. They had their Tough series 1000, 1500, and 2000 V1, and then they had just come out with their V2s. And their promotional video, at least, got me so pumped about that because, resin printing is able to achieve more detail in the first place. That the SLS has a little bit of a rough texture to it,
Yep.
where SLA doesn't really have that. And these parts, at least their claims were that they were essentially equivalent in properties to ABS, polypropylene, and I think polyethylene. If you were to injection mold like ABS, their Tough 2000 was equivalent to that, and that pretty much sold me. I think that there has been a lot of interest too, as I've been kind of poking around with my connections. I think there's a lot of opportunity for people who are looking for injection mold quality parts, but in lower than injection molding quantity
Sure.
orders.
Yep.
So once we get that in house, I'll be planning on looking for those customers that want injection mold quality parts anywhere between 1 and like 10,000 pieces.
Hmm. Awesome. Cool. And how is it working with your wife?
It's great.
Good
she
answer.
she's
Good
brought.
answer with a pregnant wife.
I love her very very much, and she's also great to work with. She has been able to take a lot of my ideas for things and make them real with her, ability to use Photoshop or InDesign or just leveraging her knowledge in marketing. She actually just got a part-time role. She does a lot of part-time and like outsource work for certain businesses. Um, but she did get a part-time role as a marketing coordinator for Power to Hydrogen, which is they make hydrogen fuel, and they put her through an entire LinkedIn marketing course by this expert, and she's been applying those things to her role at Power to Hydrogen, but she's also been able to apply a
Yeah.
lot of those things to Wolfpack, and we've been able to see a lot of increase in leads just because of those techniques. We've learned a lot of things about what is successful and what to really avoid when you're marketing on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Cool. And so just one or two last kind of more fun questions. So we've been asking, we put together a kind of a book list at the end of each year of folks that have been on the podcast just to kind of have a fun kind of takeaway at the end of the year. But is there a book, people have even gone into podcasts or other kind of piece of media that has been a particular inspiration to you or one of your favorites over the last few years that have kind
I'll
of
give
inspired you
you
down your path?
I'll give you two. So when I was just starting out with starting this business, are you familiar with Travis from Print Farm Academy?
No?
So he's a YouTuber. His YouTube channel is called Print Firm Academy. He's also got another one called Shop Nation. So he is a 3D printing business owner, and his business 3D prints dust collection systems for miter saws.
Okay.
And he's had very successful with his business. He's made them for all of the units of all the different brands. But he also is, he's got a great following on social media. So he decided to make a course of how to start a 3D printing business. And I think he just called it the 3D Print Farm Academy. And I went ahead and bought a seat in that class, and it was incredibly valuable because I've never really thought like from the nitty gritty business side of things. I've always thought, oh, I can just solve people's problems by reverse engineering and 3D printing and all of that. But there's a lot of other details of setting up systems and like really just kind of opening your eyes to what systems can you build as a baseline in your business that are going to make it successful as it scales.
Mhm.
So I think that I pulled a lot of value from his course there. And then secondly, I actually just in the last year, Advance paid for me to go and take the Dale Carnegie course.
Okay.
You're familiar with Dale Carnegie
Like
and
how
his,
to win friends and influence people.
yeah,
Yep.
exactly. I took a course there, which definitely it pushes you out of your comfort zone when it comes to speaking in front of people and having conversations and um, things like that. Part of the course was reading excerpts of that book, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Mhm.
And I made a point to go back, and I got an Audible subscription just I think 2 months ago. The first book that I got was Baby Wise because
Yep.
we're expecting, but the second one was How to Win Friends and Influence People, and I went through and listened to that whole thing. And that the principles in there are also just great for human relations and how to make people feel special. It's I think that a lot of it is just it's good relationship building, and then the business comes as a good side effect because people want to do business with you when they like you, you know.
Right.
So I feel like I could listen to that book over and over again and constantly be putting that into practice. What I was doing is I was listening to it in the car on the way to and from work, and I could always pick one principle from that drive and try to apply it that day.
Yep.
So
Fant- Fantastic. Well, David, thanks so much for joining the show today. Really excited to kind of keep tabs on your journeys, and we'll post all the website and LinkedIn stuff when we put this up, so people can find you and reach out, and also keep track of what you're doing. And if they have part designs or printing needs, I think definitely reach out.
thanks, Mike. I really appreciate you having me on.